12 to 14 in a building. They don't have a 13th floor. So this is their number. They call that the devil's number, 13. And this is the number of Mithra and his disciples. Now what happens with Mithra, Paul literally takes the Mithraic teaching and embellishes it with aspects of the Christian teaching. What he took was the death of Mithra, who transforms himself in the Roman Empire is where the Vatican now stands. This is historical evidence. It is where the Vatican now stands. The mother of Mithra was worshipped. The mother of Mithra was worshipped. So this was all part of this redaction of the Judaic teaching. The Semitic Christianity becomes this Mithraic reality, completely transformed, completely altered, until it is unrecognizable. St. Augustine and the Christians were so bothered by the similarities between Christianity and Mithraism that they would not mention Mithraism by its name. They called Mithra the fellow in the cap, the Phrygian cap. They wouldn't even mention him by his name. And St. Augustine says in his writings that he met a priest from the fellow in the cap. And he said to St. Augustine, you know, our man is a Christian also. In other words, it's really the same teaching and doctrine. The Christians completely wiped out the books, the temples. All of the evidence of Mithraism was completely wiped out. And that's why it's only recently, in the last 100 years, that scholars, anthropologists, and archaeologists have been digging up all of this stuff and finding out about this teaching. Extraordinary. You find Mithraic pictures that resemble the Greek pictures of Christ that were used as icons by the Orthodox Church. Now, the very interesting thing about modern Christianity, and they've had a problem with this since the 19th century, really since the beginning of the Enlightenment, because it's a very irrational religion and has many elements that they're no longer acceptable by their own logic, by their own evolution in their philosophies and different things, which led to their atheism, which led to their rejection. Their own intellectuals have rejected Christianity. But the Mithraic influence on this country has been so great, on the United States, on Great Britain, and on the European nations. The United States took as their symbols many of the Mithraic symbols. It's fascinating. If you study these things, you find that the Mithraism, the mystery religion of Mithraism, actually shows up on the United States, on Great Britain, and on the European nations. The United States took as their symbols many of the Mithraic symbols. It's fascinating. If you study these things, you find that the Mithraism, the mystery religion of Mithraism, actually shows up constantly, again and again, in the symbols of Western civilization. The cross is obviously the most dominant one, which is a sword. And because it was a religion of warriors, quite literally, warriors were, the Mithraists had to be warriors. They were warriors of God, their God. And this is the dialogue that Paul introduces into Christianity, which you don't find in the Gospels. You find these in the Acts and the epistles and the Corinthians and the later, what they call not from the four Gospels, but the second part of the New Testament. Now, the second word here in the Masih ad-Dajjal is called Dajjal, which in Arabic means imposter. The Arabs say Dajjal, and they use it to mean not like a Dajjal, like the Masih ad-Dajjal. They'll just say, Huwa Dajjal. Like Imam Malik, he was asked about a certain muhaddith, and he said, Huwa Dajjalun min ad-Dajjajila. He's a Dajjal he's an imposter from the imposters. And this is how it's used, the idea of an imposter. So Masih ad-Dajjal is literally an imposter, Christ. Now, if you look at the root word, because Arabic has root words, and the root words have primal meanings which indicate where the semantic field is deriving its meaning from. The word dajjala was a word that the Arabs used when a camel had mange. When it was diseased, they would put pitch over it as a treatment. They would put pitch, and they used that word yudajjilu. They would put this pitch over the camel so you didn't see the disease of the camel. Outwardly, the camel would look good because it's been pitched over. You got that idea? This is the Dajjal is he pitches over the sickness and the disease and makes diseases look good. Now, it's very interesting that when we as Muslims think of Isa alayhi salam, I mean, I don't know. Let me ask just Idris, what's the first, when you think of Isa, what do you think of in the Islamic tradition? Can somebody tell me what do you think of when you think of Isa alayhi salam in the Islamic tradition? What do you think of? Nabiullah, I mean that's obvious. Ruh Allah. This is a very interesting term. Ruh Allah. What does ruh mean in Arabic? What's it mean? You look like you're Arab. What's it mean? Ruh. Spirit. Now, the spirit is opposite what? What is the spirit opposite? The material, right? Isa alayhi salam is literally the embodiment of spirituality. He does not have a world